Hello, everybody. Welcome to Coffee Time with Byron. I'm your host, Byron. Long time. It's been since January, my last episode. But hey, oh well, life happens. But alongside me is former minor league pitcher and MLB pitcher, fellow journeyman. I hope I'm saying the last name correct. Rich Sauveur.
Close enough. Nobody pronounces it correct. It's Sauveur.
Sauveur. Okay. See. Okay. There we go. Now I can pronounce it. That's better. That's better. So now I can say it at the end. Hopefully. But thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Sure.
And let's get started. I gotta ask you first, like we talked about in text form when we first started this. Obviously, you are working for and coaching at the school down in Bradenton. Like you said, it's a nationwide school. So tell us a little about that. I know it's nationwide. What are the teams like? How does it go? What's the process? And since you are a part of it, how many actually big leaguers or minor leaguers are in it? Do you have any idea?
Well, it's called IMG Academy. It's the largest sports academy in the world. We have just in baseball. I think there's seven sports there. Um, there's baseball, basketball, football, track and field, lacrosse, soccer, tennis, golf. That's eight. And it's an absolute, it's a dream job for me actually, because I've lived in Bradenton all my life. Well, I shouldn't say that, since I was 17, and retired from professional baseball in 19, and a job opened up over there. And
Mhm.
it's only 15 minutes from my home, so it's been great, and I get to do the same thing I was doing the last 18 years in professional ball, coaching pitchers, and actually the last year now I've been a head coach of one of the varsity teams. Um, we have 11 teams. There's seven varsity, one post grad, uh, a, a, uh, a junior national team, and JV and middle school. So we cover all ages. I guess it's from 13 on up, maybe 12 on up, and it's a great place to work.
Now, do you know? I don't know if they tell you or not, but I'm hoping they would since it's nationally. Do you know how many are right now currently that have made it in the draft or have been drafted by major league teams?
I don't know how many in the past. I couldn't tell you overall, since they've had baseball there for at least 25, 22 years. I know that. Now I know we had the number 5 pick last year by the Nationals, Elijah Green. He was number 5 pick. I mean, and he's doing so far. He's doing well. I think I don't know if he's at his golf at the Gulf Coast League or the Florida State League. I don't know where he's at, but I heard he's doing pretty well. We've got some talent. We really do. Our number one team, the national team, went 25-0 this year, and did a fabulous job. I think they ended up ranked second in the state and third overall in the nation. I don't know how they do that. How
Mm.
somebody, how they do rank them, but they ended up third in the nation with a 25-0 record. But we got some talent this year. I think there's going to be a couple kids that are going to be drafted. I'm pretty sure one's going to be drafted in the first round. Um, but every year we get kids from Japan, um, Venezuela, Mexico, Korea, just all over the place.
Now, I gotta ask you. I mean, before we get into your career, I gotta ask you: did you have when you were growing up? I know watching the sport, and even when you participated in it, are you happy now with what baseball has become in a global game? I mean, it was America's pastime, but you don't see much Americans in it no more. It's all basically foreigners. Are you happy with the way it's going and all that?
That part I'm very happy with. I think that I played 18 years, and 13 of it I played in Venezuela. Winter ball, played Venezuela, Dominican, Mexico, and Puerto Rico. I made a lot of friends down there, and I'm very happy that it's going that way. I love those guys that come up here and play and take care of their families. absolutely love that part of the game. The analytic part, I'm not too happy with because I think that they've taken a lot of the good baseball men out of the game, and I think there's guys that, and don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking them because I just feel that a good baseball man and the know-how I think is needed in the game.
Like we said, we talked about this earlier when we texted. You can blame Malusa for that. He was the originator, from what I understand, of doing all this analytics. But I don't think he honestly thought to himself that it would grow this big that it has. Just like Joe Madden. Remember Joe Madden when he did the shift? I don't think he ever thought, or putting the pitcher, what was it? What is
Bat,
it?
they bat him eighth.
No, the bullpen start.
Oh yeah,
The
the
bullpen. Yeah. I
still
don't
doing.
think Joe Madden ever realized that'd be a trend too. But yeah, unfortunately, yeah, they started trends, and they honestly, I don't think it's helped the game, but I mean, it is what
I
it
don't.
is.
Along with this, the new rules and stuff that they're doing right now, they are they making it more exciting, with the stolen bases and stuff like that. I think some of this stuff with the pitcher is, I don't mind the pitch clock or the hit clock, whatever you want to call it. But the problem I have is if they can't make a certain amount of pickoffs to first base, then obviously the runner knows that, hey, he can't come over here anymore. I just think that's a joke, to be honest with you. I really do.
See, this is where I thought, this is where you're surprising me on this from a former player standpoint that pitched in the 90s, before the steroid era, before this era. I mean, I heard somebody on the JP show, which I'm sure you know who JP Peterson is, in the Tampa area, a part of that area where you're at too. Um, he had Goose Gossage on. He interviewed Goose Gossage, and Gossage said to him, like, it's sad to see, like, it's a true point that I didn't realize. In his day and age, just like your time, they didn't, the players themselves did not need to push themselves to do what they're doing now. It's like from, you get what I'm saying? It's like a player wanna be like when they were pitching and you're hitting, you didn't want to do all this stuff. You got to the point, nitty gritty, whatever you wanted to hit, whatever. Like, it's like the players implemented it and the coaches just allowed it. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
So from Gossage made that good point. I didn't see it as that, but I kind of get what he meant, was like saying, unfortunately, this is what the era has gone to and why these players need the pitch clock and all that. Do you agree with what Gossage has said?
I agree 100%. I mean, if you ever watch him pitch, I mean, I remember watching him, and he got the ball and pitched, and he was quick to the plate. So guys didn't steal off him, and that's why he didn't have to throw 2, 3, 4 times over. Just like you said, we've got guys that are, right now the main goal is to throw hard,
Mm-hmm.
and velocity to me wasn't in the 90s. Velocity was not the main goal. The main goal was we had to throw strikes. You had to command a fastball,
Exactly.
and but like I said, you watch Goose Gossage, watch a clip of him. He got the ball and he threw. And I mean, it was amazing to watch.
And that was the same with the hitters' mentality too. He said it's like the hitters today have implemented. They did it themselves too, and the coaches just allowed it to happen with stepping in and out of the box, batting gloves, adjusting whatever, the package, whatever, doing something. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, they implemented this themselves to longer games. It's
Yep.
like back in the day, you guys never had to do that. You hitters just came up to the plate, hit, did what they had to do. Pitchers just pitched, did what they had to do, and that was it.
But
And
they
that
had,
was quick games.
yeah, they had the idea. I mean, if they're, Bucky Dent, all right, I'm going to move the guy over. Somebody else, I'm going to bunt him over. Hit and run. You don't see hit and runs anymore. I mean, that was part of the game, and that was fun. Now are the stolen bases a fun part of the game? I love watching a guy steal a base. I'd love to see somebody steal, 50, 60 bases again. I think that's fantastic. But
Mhm.
this rule of not being able to throw over because you've already thrown over once, I think is a joke.
It is. It is. I mean, I'm for adjusting it to make the games go by quicker. I'm for it because I didn't like the long games. That made the games even more boring than what they already are.
Yep.
But And honestly, I'm sure you can see it now. I'm sure you watch the Rays. I know a lot of people have said the Rays are cheating, but who knows if they are or not? I don't care. But I think they're the ones taking full advantage of these new rules because look at the record and what they're hitting. They're running the ball. They're running, moving the runner over. They're hitting home runs. I mean, it's a whole thing of what they're doing. So don't you agree? Like, I mean, it has helped somewhat change the game of what, because honestly, from what the games I've watched, there is more stolen bases. They're trying to implement that more moving the runner over. I mean, yes, there still are strikeouts and there are home runs, but doesn't that seem like it's going few and far between now? They're trying to.
Is the batting average down? I think the batting averages are down the last couple of years because of all this.
Well, yes, that is true. Yes.
And so now, is that because of the analytics? No, it's not the only reason. It really isn't. It's because the arms are a lot better now. I mean, you got guys throwing 102, 103 miles an hour when I was playing. The average fastball was like 92. And I know it picked up every year. I remember seeing 92 and then 93, 94. It was crazy how it gets strong. Guys would get stronger, and to see it now 102, 103 miles an hour coming out of these guys. It's amazing. It really is.
How would you have fared in today's game? Would you think? Would you have done well?
Well, I, I probably I had the opportunity to take steroids and I didn't do it. I guarantee you I would have had to take them now to even come close to what they're doing now. But and I don't know if it would have helped. But I told you, like I said earlier, I was really good in the minor leagues. In the big leagues, I wasn't that good, and the reason why is because those hitters were outstanding. Um, some people ask me that all the time. Why didn't you do good in the big leagues? And I said, well, I'll be honest with you. Those hitters are really good, and I faced the Tony Gwynns and the Don Mattingly and Derek Jeter, a lot of great guys and great hitters, and they simply were just a lot better than I was.
Out out of those hitters, though, out of those hitters, the great hitters that you faced, who would you say was the better hitter out of all? Because you just mentioned some great hitters throughout the league's history. Out of all those great hitters you faced, and I know you faced plenty others, those three you named, etc. Out of all the hitters you faced, who would you say is the better hitter out of them all?
Well, like I said earlier, in the minor leagues, I was really good, and I had a lot of confidence in the minor leagues. I was a lefty specialist. I did start early in my career, but later on when I went to the pen, I would come in and get a lot of lefties out. Uh, and like I said, I did really well in the minor leagues, but I got to the big leagues, and I remember one guy that I remember throwing the pitch I called was a frisbee, which was a drop down sidearm breaking ball
Mm.
that like a slurve. And this man stood in and had no problems whatsoever. And that was Tony Gwynn. And I mean, that guy was an absolute, an amazing. He was a magician with that bat. The joke that I always tell everybody is, you know, Tony Gwynn only got one hit off me his whole career. And then they ask me, well, how many times did he face you? And I have to tell them only one time. So
Hey, there you go. Did you ever get to meet him personally or no?
I did. I met him. I coached in the Brewers organization, and his son, Tony Gwynn Jr., was on our team in Beloit, Wisconsin, in A-ball. And he came into town and talked to our team one day. And I got to meet him and, told him I got to face him one game. I'm sure he didn't know who I was, but he said he remembered me, which was nice of him. But it was really a pleasure to meet the guy. And he was a super human being.
Like father, like son. The son's the same way.
Uh,
Announcing games now with the Padres, same way.
Yeah, Tony Jr. is a great man. Great man.
Yeah, I know. He's awesome. He's just like his daddy. His daddy taught him well. So now, were you when you were coming out of college? Were you undrafted, drafted? Who scouted you, and did you know where you were going at? Were going to go at wherever you were at if you were indeed drafted? Did you know where you were going to go?
Yeah, back in the day, and I'm telling you how old I am. They had two drafts back then. They had a January draft and a June draft. The June draft, obviously, they still have. And the January draft, they put away. I don't remember when it was.
I think
But
it's called Rule 5, isn't it?
no,
Isn't
that's in
that?
December. That's in the winter meetings.
Oh, okay.
Meetings. But it was, I mean, it was a legitimate draft. And so I got drafted by Pittsburgh in the January draft. I was at junior college down here in Bradenton, Manatee Junior College, which is now
Mm,
State College of Florida. And
mm,
Pittsburgh drafted me, and this was '83, January of '83, and they offered me $1,000, and I was like, "Well, I'm sorry, but I want to get my car paid off." And so they said, "Well, how much is that?" I said, "Well, I need $5,000," and they said, "Oh, we're not going to be able to do that." I said, "All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and go to school and finish junior college, and then we'll see what happens after that." And so they have my rights for 3 weeks prior to the June draft. And 3 weeks came up and they called me and said, "Sure, you don't want to sign?" I said, "Yep, I'm sure. Thanks. I appreciate it." And 3 weeks later, I get drafted again by Pittsburgh again and $5,000. And I'm like, I don't understand, but I'm going to take it because that's what I want. And
right.
that's how I got drafted. Now, to be honest with you, I don't even remember what round it was. I think the the way they call it in June, I was drafted a thing called a secondary phase, and that what that is for guys that got drafted in January, they have a certain draft, a certain portion of the draft that's for secondary kids that got drafted in January, and I think
Right.
I sixth round or something like that. Maybe I think it was sixth round of the secondary phase.
There you go. I mean, hey, at least the Pirates saw something in you. They drafted you twice.
Yep, yeah, they did. It was funny, and then of
Even though
course,
you were a journeyman, at least
yeah.
they saw something in you.
I So I was going to school in Bradenton, Florida, and Pittsburgh drafts me. So I went home after our season and I get drafted by Pittsburgh, and I was only home for 6 days. I had to come right back to Bradenton for the short spring training they had. Not spring training. The what do they call it? I forgot what they used to call it. But I had to come back for one more week in June, and then I went to this short season up in Watertown, New York. That's where I started my career.
So, um, how long were you in the minors before that you actually got the call up by them? Because it says here you were called up in July on July 1st, close to Independence Day, with them in '86. So
Right.
how long did you have to wait before you got that call up, and who told
Well,
you that you got the call up?
it was a funny story, which is great. I loved it. If you've seen the movie Major League, and the point of the movie where Willie Mays Hayes knows he made the team, and he
Yep.
comes out and he gets out this little area where he does that little dance because he knows he made the team.
Mhm.
There used to be a payphone there, and that spring training site is in Tucson, Arizona, which was the AAA team for the. I can't remember exactly who it was. Might have been the Astros. But we were.
Sounds familiar.
I was in Hawaii, the Hawaii Islanders, which was our AAA town. We played in Hawaii,
I remember that. Yep, I remember that.
but we were up in Tucson when I got told that I was going to the big leagues by Tommy Sant, and that's where I went out and I got on that payphone and called my dad. That's how I found out. Tommy Sant told me.
Now, did that same day that you got called up, did they implement you in the game, or how long did it take for you to actually get into the game for your
It,
first appearance?
I actually got called up. I think in June. I think June 25th is when I got called up. So it was about a week before I started my first game. I started my first game against the Phillies and Mike Maddox, Greg's brother.
Is that ultimately who you learned pitching from? Was because I'm sure he was a veteran and on his way out, the brother to, or was he?
No,
Was
and
he?
he was. I didn't really learn. My idol was Steve Carlton, who
Okay,
I ended up, which was unbelievable. I got to pitch against him in my third game that year.
really?
Yeah, he was in San Francisco, and he was on his way out of his career was almost over, but he was pitching for the
Right.
Giants at the time, and I got to pitch against that guy, and absolutely loved him when he was with the Phillies, and I was probably 14, 13, 14, 15 years old watching him pitch.
So was there a pitcher in your career? Obviously, you were a journeyman during your 6 teams that you were. Was there a pitcher that helped you along the way that helped you guide you, especially when you were young? I know when you were older, you helped the younger guys just like you are now with coaching. But in your younger days, when you were just calling up, being called up, and you were in the minors and the majors the few majors you were in, was there any pitchers that helped you along the way to guide you?
I don't think there was many. I don't want to say there were pitchers that I really can sit back and think about. I think there was a lot of coaches, and there was one coach, a guy named Spin Williams, who I had through the minor leagues with the Pirates, who
Mm-hmm.
was very important in my career. I mean, he helped me a ton. Joe Kerrigan was another pitching coach I had. He ended up being the manager of the Red Sox at one point, but he was my pitching coach in the minor leagues with the Montreal Expos. So I think those two guys really helped me a lot and pushed me along the way. Um, they knew that my stuff wasn't the greatest, and I think that's how the reason why I got to the big leagues was because I learned how to pitch with the stuff that I had, and they were very big parts of that.
Now, the few pitchers that I've had on, I've also asked them this question, just like I'm going to ask you. Obviously, you pitched, unfortunately, in what will be known as my era, and also, unfortunately, your era that you pitched in, the steroid era. When you were facing guys like that, did you know that they were juicing up, or do you think it was just natural? Or take us through that when you were, because you're literally facing these guys. Take us through that. Did you know they were juicing?
I can't say 100%. I knew they were. There was talk about it. There was talk about it, but I can't say that I knew for sure. Um, these guys were big. There's no doubt about it. You had your thoughts, um, but I'm not going to say 100% sure I knew.
Now, do you think that honestly helped the game? I know, of course, the home run chase with not Bonds, but McGuire and Sosa. Do you think that honestly helped or hurt the game? Because at the time, they weren't testing for that, and they were allowed to get away with it, obviously, like they
Right.
do, now. But do you think that honestly helped or hurt the game?
Well, I mean, I can give you my opinion. I mean, I think I was like everybody else. That was a lot of fun to watch with Sosa and McGuire.
It was no doubt about it.
Incredible. And Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds is an amazing hitter. Whatever these steroids do, does anybody really know what they do? They don't make you hit the ball better. They really don't. You got to be a great hitter to be in the big leagues, and those guys were great hitters. Um, again, those steroids, you still have to hit the ball, and those guys, you know, I think they did something that it was a decision they made, and whatever it was, I think it helped the game at that point. I really do. Um, I'll tell you this: I think it helped a lot more than what the analytics are doing to the game now.
Touche. I agree with you on that for sure. Now I also see when you were with the Expos, you had um, an injury that kept you out. Do you think that ultimately also hurt your career as well? Because obviously, I saw you were teller down too in your career after that point. So, do you think that also hurt your career
Well,
coming back from that injury?
nobody will ever know. I got hurt in '89, which was my second year with the Expos. Um, Nobody will ever really know because I was able to come back. It was about a year and a half later. Um, 91, I had a decent season in AAA with the Mets and got called up to the Mets that year. Um, Again, my stuff was never, it was not Randy Johnson like, who was my roommate in '88 with the Expos. It's not, did I have the command that Greg Maddox had? No, I didn't have that stuff.
Right.
But, you know, what I had, I think I utilized it to the best of my ability. I really do. And, whatever I got out of this game was because of the know how of how to pitch, throw a baseball across the plate.
Since you were a journeyman throughout all those years until you retired, out of all the teams you played for, I think it was 7 I saw. Uh, which one did you enjoy playing with the most?
Well, I played with 8 teams. 6 of them I got to the big leagues with, and I'll be honest with you, I always hold the Oakland A's really close to my heart because I think the guys there really treated me, incredibly. Uh,
Mm,
Jason Giambi, I to this day I think people ask me who was my favorite guy that I played with, and I can tell you right now I can sit here and drop names for an hour. George Brett, Frank Thomas, Andres Galarraga, Barry Bonds. I played with all these guys, but Jason Giambi was the guy that I'll never forget because the first day, and you got to remember, I'm 35 years old, and I'm still considered a rookie in
right,
6 time to the big leagues. Uh,
right.
Jason
Yeah.
Giambi was probably, I don't even know, he's probably 10 years younger than me. And first day I'm there, game's over, and I'm sitting there eating dinner in front of my locker, and he asked me what I was going to do after the game or what I was going to do tonight. And I said, I'm probably going to go back to my hotel. He says, no, you're going to go with me. And we went out, and I mean, had a great night, and a couple of the other players showed up and treated me great. And I'll never forget that. And he just treated me like one of the guys from day one.
Now, before we get back into your career, 2 questions off topic. Since you did pitch for Oakland, I got to ask you, and obviously the sentimental is with you there too, because you just said it with the organization. How do you feel about them now moving to Las Vegas and giving up on? Oh, I feel bad for the fans. Not only do they have a horrible team because the ownership don't want to put out a good. I mean, don't get me wrong, the players are playing hard, but it's just not enough, and they've given up on that uh, fan base. The ownership did, and all that. How do you feel about them moving to Las Vegas?
Well, it all comes down to this. It's a money making business, and if they're not making the money in Oakland, they're going to go somewhere else, just like the Montreal Expos did. And they feel that some place else is going to make money. Tampa Bay, they thought Tampa Bay was going to be a great place to play baseball, but the fans just don't come out unless they're winning. And if they have if they have a bad couple weeks here, the fans are gonna shut down. And it's shown that before in years before. Uh, I just feel that if they're going to move on, it's part of the game. It's part of the business. The ownership is going to move. Hey, if you'll tell us you'll build us this $1 billion stadium, and we're going to have the people coming in, and they are going to have people coming in because that place is brings in the people, obviously, with the casinos and stuff. And
Yeah.
but I think it's going to be a great place for the team. Now, do I feel bad for the fan base in Oakland? I really do.
Yeah, because within a span of 3 years, they've lost all their teams.
Yeah.
First was Golden State. They lost Golden State. That was the first team.
Right.
Then came the Raiders going to Vegas,
Yeah.
and now the A's.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible, but again, like I said, it's a money making business, and if they're not making the money, they're going to go somewhere else.
Now, speaking of the other team, also in that field that you played for, the Expos, that also moved to Washington. Now, I've heard this afloat too. I'm sure you have too. I know there's more teams, more cities, but the idea of expansion is still out there. Out of these 3 cities, these are the main 3 that I've heard. I'm sure there's more out there. Which one would you think would succeed the most in having a team? Carolina, Montreal, who wants a team again, which had baseball before and flourished, or Nashville?
Well, I'll be honest with you. With Nashville having a team, and I played in Nashville for the AAA team. I played there twice for 2 different organizations. Um, I think Nashville would be fantastic. Now, Carolina, I think they've got a very good fan base too. You know, they've got the Charlotte Knights there, which is a AAA team. So, to me, if you're asking my opinion, I don't think Montreal. I think they're third on the list for me. I think the other two have a better chance, not just because they're in Canada. They had their chance. They had a team, and they had good teams at times.
Yeah.
But they didn't show up. And I think with the smaller ballparks that are being made now, instead of the 60,000 people like Three Rivers and Candlestick and all that, I really do think that these two cities, Carolina or Nashville, could flourish.
Now, like you said, obviously your time was limited in the majors and you couldn't obviously make an all-star team. But were you able to go experience your years in the majors that you were you able to go and see the all-star games and the festivities that went on, or did you have to watch it at home?
Yeah, I watched everything at home. I've never been to an All Star game. Now I've been to the playoffs. I've gone to a lot of playoff games. I got to see the World Series as well, coaching the Red Sox organization. I got to go see the 2013 World Series. Um, so I got to see all that stuff. But and you know it's an incredible time for baseball during the playoffs. Just like I think any sport. I love watching the playoffs of football and hockey. It's an amazing time, and just to be part of it would just be that much more.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here since you were a coach and you've coached in multiple organizations. It's a two-part question. Who out of the majors or minors was the most easiest to coach, and who was the most hardest to coach?
Woo! Let's see. So the easiest guy to coach was probably a guy named Tazawa, who I had with the Red Sox. He pitched for me. Uh,
I
he,
remember him.
what's that? Yeah, he was something. Hey, he pitched really well for they actually wore him out.
They
Uh,
did. They
oh my,
used him a lot. Yeah.
a ton, and he was dominating. I mean, I remember him pitching for me, and we had a translator, but the guy would sit there and he would listen to me, and any advice I had for him, he always asked for it. Tell me what you think, tell me what I'm doing wrong, and anything I gave him, you could see him really trying to use what utilize what I gave him
Mhm.
out down. Did really well. Toughest, gosh, that is a tough one. Uh, I'll be honest with you. The toughest is probably like a I don't know. Probably these. Uh, Dice K was tough. Dice K came down and pitched for me a ton in rehab. Um, yeah, Matsuzaka. He was probably the toughest because obviously he already knew how to pitch. The guy had a tremendous career in
Right.
Japan, and
Right.
then over in he came over here and was doing well his first year, um, and then probably like I said, a year or two later, 3 years later, he's down in AAA. He doesn't want a AAA pitching coach trying to tell him how to pitch. So I'd say that was probably my most difficult.
Now, your time in the majors that you had limited. Well, and it's another two-part question. You obviously pitched more in the minors too. What stadium for the minors did you love pitching in the most, and what stadium in the majors did you enjoy pitching in your time in the majors?
In Indianapolis was probably my favorite. I spent uh, 7 years in Indianapolis with two different organizations, the Reds and the Expos. Um, so I got to pitch in both stadiums. There was one. The first stadium was called Busch Stadium, which, if you ever saw Eight Men Out, that was our stadium. Great movie, and that was our old Busch. That was old Busch Stadium in Indianapolis, and then
Mm.
they moved over to the new stadium that was downtown, and I got to pitch in that one as well. But I love the city, love the people. I made a lot of friends there. The Schumachers, who ran the organization over there, was a fantastic family. They really were. And talk about treating players with respect. I mean, they knew how to do that. It was fantastic there. In the big leagues, I'd say my favorite was probably Camden Yards. Got to pitch in there when I was with Oakland in 2000, and that was a fantastic place.
How bad of a dump was it then? I know it's dumped now, but since you pitched in Oakland, how much of a dump was the Coliseum?
It wasn't that it was a dump. It was just it was cold and windy, and it seemed like there were a gazillion fans on every night, and just you saw trash from people eating stuff and just blowing everywhere, and tornadoes just blowing up everywhere. It just seemed like with trash. That's the only bad thing about it was the weather. It was just so cold. I guess the coming off the water. I don't know, but that's the only thing I didn't like about it. The dugouts. You had to walk behind home plate to get to our clubhouse for both sides. Um, I mean, to me, it wasn't a bad stadium. It was just the weather, and I hated being cold.
Now you pitched in the era of football stadiums being baseball stadiums. I kind of miss that era now. Do you honestly miss that?
I do. I thought it was the coolest thing. I remember in Oakland, looking at the field like that and seeing how they played football on it.
Right.
Three Rivers, Candlestick, got to pitch in
Yep.
Three
Yep.
Rivers, in Philadelphia.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, those were,
Cincinnati, the
yep,
one.
yep. Yeah, I did play in Cincinnati as well. You're right. But you know, those stadiums were huge. I mean, 60 and 65, thousand people could sit and watch a game. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was. I missed. I wish they would. I wish they didn't get rid of those because honestly, Oakland's now was the last one.
Right.
Now there's no stadium. It's like disappointing because
Yeah.
I remember growing up watching when those teams that shared those stadiums were filled, like you said, like the
Yep.
Marlins in '97 when they won the World Series, and in 2003.
Yep.
I mean, who? Oh yeah, the early days, like you said, the Pirates.
Pirates.
I mean, I miss those days. Those long gone.
Used to love watching the Steelers with the dirt infield. Or not the dirt infield, but the you could see the bases marked off.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I miss those. Now, you obviously were you around? Did you pitch in the majors at the time of the strike? What happened around that time? Were you well aware of what was going on in the strike? What happened? Take us through that whole process in the 90. I think it was 94, 90, 94, 95. Right? Was the
Yep.
strike?
Yeah. I'll tell you about me. So I was in spring training with Cincinnati, and Jim Bowden came to me and came to Rick Reed and all that, and asked us to cross. And there was another guy named Scott Service, who was a good friend of mine, a pitcher, and asked us all to cross. And Rick Reed ended up going over, and myself and Scott Service said, no, we're not going to go. And so then he says, well, you all can go home. And of course, we got to take care of our families. So he called us back about 2 weeks later and said, look, we'll give you this. And I said, we don't want to play in any games. We don't even know if they're going to have a season. They told us that we would be crossing. If we played in any spring training game, then we would be considered crossing. And I said, I don't want to do that.
Mm.
So he said, well, I'll make a deal with you. And this is the thing where I kind of got screwed in this. I didn't play in any spring training game. And he told us, he goes, I want you to go up to Cincinnati with the team. They're going to play an exhibition game that they play every year in Columbus. And it's just an exhibition game. It's not considered a spring training game. And that's the one game I played in. And after they played that, I was considered, they told me, oh yeah, it's considered a spring training game. I said, well, Bowden told me it was an exhibition game. And that's the only game I ever played in. And I got considered crossing the line. And of course, the very next night, they agreed not to do this. And the players were coming back. So I kind of got the shaft that way, but I never really, nobody ever treated me bad. I'll be honest with you. Nobody ever treated me bad about it. And, you know, for what I got, I mean, he offered me a lot of money to do it. And, I had to take care of my family.
Now, how similar do you think that time was to that strike was to this strike that they just recently had in 2021 with the collective bargaining. Was it about the same like what you guys were going through?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I didn't follow it that much. I do know this. I do know this that they ended up giving what we asked. We went to we went in a meeting with some of the major league players, and we asked them. We went to the Players Association meeting and asked them, help us out. We need to take care of our families. Help us out. We won't cross if you help us out with some kind of salary. And they didn't want to do that. They didn't want to help us out. And so what could we do? We had to do what we had to do. This in 21, they started paying for these players. They started paying a little bit more money and everything after that, and I think they were taken care of a lot better.
Now, let's talk about the WBC that just happened. Do you like the WBC? Do you like where it's at? Because I honestly think I like it where it's at. They need to keep it where it's at. Because if they kept it during the summer, which was originally what they did, nobody was going to be a part of it. No major league players is going to be a part of it, especially for the U.S. I mean, do you like where it's at now and during spring training where these major league players can play? Or tell us about your feelings on the WBC.
I enjoyed watching it. I'll tell you, I did enjoy watching it, and I think the major league players need to play in it. If it's going to be exciting, you're going to need the major league players. They're the best of the best. It's like the Japanese guys over there. Their players are making their team up. You need the best of the best. So I think the timing is perfect. I think the players be part of it. What is it? Is it every 2 years or every 3 years? What is it?
Three.
So
it just so happened to be 4 this year because it was supposed to happen, if you remember, last year, but because of the pandemic, it got pushed to this year.
Right. No, I think the timing's fine. Now the injuries, that's the only bad thing, and I know the organizations are not, that part, but I think
I agree.
I think they brought in some revenue and some of these countries. It was a lot of watching, Colombia, 4 years ago. A friend of mine was the manager, and I loved it. They were doing well, but it's part of the game. And if you like baseball,
I agree with you. These organizations aren't going to be happy regardless, but they need to realize it would have happened in spring training as well. Look at what happened with Gavin Lux. He wasn't even a part.
Yep.
That's just a big name that I can throw out there, but there's others. Reese Hoskins, another one.
Right.
I mean, it can happen in spring training regardless. So who cares if they're playing for, I'm sure you're referring to what happened with Edwin Diaz, correct? The Mets closer.
No, injuries are gonna happen. Whether you could slam a finger in the car door. They've had some very bad voting spring training. Things happened. So I remember that very sad, but gonna happen, whether baseball or something at home or in spring training, injuries are going to happen.
Of course, there's no doubt about it. And yeah, like I said, these organizations can try and do whatever they can, but it's not. They can be upset, but it's going to happen anywhere. So yep. I agree with you on that. But yeah, I enjoyed it because especially I didn't get to watch it much because I was also working at the time these games was, so I didn't really get to watch it much. But the one game and moment I do always remember from this year was the two teammates going at it, Shohei and Trout. That moment will forever live in U.S. and Japan history. Was when those two went at it.
Yeah, no, that was fantastic, and absolutely loved it. And there's nothing better. Watch a baseball game when guys are friends, because a lot of guys are friends, in these games, and just watch it. I love watching Miguel Cabrera when he's at first base and he messes with his buddies. Part of the game, man. It's a game. They got to remember it is a game. They're supposed to have fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I think the next one, like you said, is in 3 years. And the stadiums, I know they've been talking about doing it in other areas, but why do other areas when the areas that you've had the stadium so far and where you play these games be successful? Because I know this year they implemented new, I think it was two places, Thailand and Japan for one stage, and then here was of course, Phoenix and Miami.
Right.
A couple of years ago it was LA and San Diego. I get they want to change the stadiums up, but work with what you've been working with. I mean, it's been successful with the same stadiums.
Well,
And then,
you gotta remember, you gotta need weather. You remember it's March, so you're gonna have to have weather uh, to games. Um, obviously in Japan you don't need to have weather because they've got the dome, right? But
yeah.
that's only one state. I don't know. Do they have a second dome out there? I don't know, but they have these domes here for good for weather. They're not going to get rained out either in Chase Field or down in Miami. So I think that's a reason why they use those, and it's you know the fans can get there. People can fly into Miami, can fly into Phoenix very easily. So I think those are two good spots right there.
Now, you were in the era where contracts weren't really that expanded like they are nowadays. Um, what do you think of all this money flowing with these contracts?
Well, let me say this: the owners created monsters years ago, and all that's happening is these monsters are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the monsters are the agents that can get this much money this year, and next year they can get a little bit more and a little bit more. So
Mm-hmm.
they these monsters when they started giving all these, you know, I mean, you're paying whatever 40 million for 10 years, and so that means you're going to pay a guy 40 million when he's 28, and you're going to pay 40 million when he's 38, and he's probably not going to produce like he did when he was 28. So you're actually paying probably 60 million 27 out
Yeah.
to. I mean, or 70 million, and his last year he's probably only worth about 10 million.
Yeah.
I think it's crazy. But do the players deserve the money? If the owners are making the money, then the players deserve the money because they're helping them.
Now let's talk a little bit about the faces of MLB. Who do you think should MLB ultimately rely on for the faces? Because right now, all you're seeing is the East Coast guys, not West Coast. So, what do they need to do to expand the West Coast guys like a Trout? Even though he don't want it, but he is the best player. Shohei, of course, they're doing well with him. That's like the only one. Tatis, he went down because of what went down with him, but he's still one, I think. What do you think they need to do to expand to get more audience going through? Because that's what ultimately what people want to see is the faces.
Well, like I said, I here and who do you think about? The first name you think about was you think about and you're going to laugh at me, but you think about Jazz Chisholm. I mean, he's huge down in Miami. I know he's injured right now, but he gets his face on the show, the
Yeah,
game.
he's big right now because of the show. Yeah.
Yeah, but you see these guys, and listen, I know Jazz very well. I had him in the organization, the Diamondbacks organization. A phenomenal kid. I mean, very respectful to his coaches. Is he a showboat? He really is. He's a huge show, but the kid is very respectful, and I absolutely love the kid to death.
Mhm.
Uh, but Mookie Betts, great guy. When he was Boston, that's all you heard about was Mookie Betts. Now he goes out to L.A. and he's not as big. It doesn't seem like. You've got a lot of good players out there, so he's kind of mixed in with all those players. Is anybody really blowing it up out there on the West Coast? I mean, think about that. Is there anybody? I'm asking you.
Honestly, no.
So that's why. That's why. I mean, right
That's what
now,
I'm saying. Like, there's
yeah,
nobody out there.
no. So the thing is, though, but they're not putting the numbers up like they are. Uh, you know, you got the Yankees who you'll hear about for till I'm 6 feet under, or until my son's 6 feet under. The Yankees are the Yankees. The Red Sox are the Red Sox. You know,
Right.
can you find a better game than the Yankees and Red Sox back in the 70s or 80s? It was
Right.
incredible. That was incredible. And I'd love for that to get back. The Dodgers, what I remember when I was growing up, the Dodgers and the Reds, I used to love watching that. And, you know, that was a lot of fun back then. But, do I think that, if the players would start putting up the numbers, I think they would show up, because that's what's going to make money for the TV revenue. They're going to show those people.
Do you also think it's also because of these national networks too, only playing the games they want to play with these big teams?
Well,
Why nobody's noticing these players? Because
that's
because
that's
there's a lot of good players out there, but they're not being seen
well,
unless you're on MLB.TV.
well, that's true. I mean, look at Tampa Bay. I mean, they got a lot of, what did the gentleman say? There's a lot of journeymen here, you know. But you know what? They're putting up numbers, but nobody knows about them because they're not seen. They're,
Exactly.
they're going to get heard. They're going to get heard. Trust me, they will. When the playoffs start in about 4 months, they're going to be heard from, because I think the Rays are for real. But these TVs, they got all these TV deals with all this money. These deals, they're giving all this money. They're going to put on the screen who they want to put on.
Yeah. And you never know with these networks too, because from what I'm understanding, a lot of these networks now, like Bally, the Disney, whatever owns AT&T, I think, or whatever, they're all bankrupt. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with these networks now,
Yep.
because from what I understand, it's all going to be now just streaming. I guess it's not actually going to be on these networks no more. It's going to be just strictly streaming. That's what I understand.
Yep.
I don't know if that. I honestly, I don't know if that's a good thing. That might actually hurt.
Yeah, I haven't heard. I haven't paid attention to that much. I just know that I mean, I've heard about it. I just don't pay attention to it. But yeah, I think it's gonna be a major thing of baseball. These deals are going to go away. I really do believe they're going to go away.
Now, two more. I'll let you go because we're putting up on the hour mark, more than what we wanted to do. But hey, been fun. It's been fun. So the first one is, I know it's early. I know it's early, but I want to still get your prediction. Uh, who's going to the World Series, and who's going to win it, and how many games?
I really think Tampa Bay is real. I think the Yankees will choke again somehow, some way. They'll find a way. I think the Astros are for real. I really do. They've just got a great team, with or without the drums, and they've got a great skipper. I mean, that man knows baseball inside and out. Really,
Right. Yep.
So I think between Tampa Bay and Houston, and I think the Dodgers, and you sit there and look at what the Padres have on the field, and you just sit there and go, why can't they get through all this? Just an unbelievable team on paper. But I think the Dodgers will come out somehow, and out of the West, and are out of the National League, and I think the Rays come out of the American League. And honest opinion is, I think the Dodgers will win it.
That's a good possibility. I wouldn't doubt it. That's a good possibility, but they can also choke too. They've choked in the past too.
Yes, they have. Yes, they have. I've got, I had 3 guys that I coached, 3 guys that are pitching coaches in the big leagues right now. Mark Pryor.
Yep, that's one. Yep.
And there's one more. I'm trying to think who my other one is. But I got 3 guys that are coaching in the big leagues as pitching coaches. But Mark Pryor is, fantastic job out there with the guys. And
honestly, he's probably the main one that you've probably coached that has had the more success. He's had a Hall of Fame career.
Well, now you're talking about Pryor?
Yeah, Pryor.
Well, I don't know if you could say Hall of Fame. In my opinion, he was he got injured, and he never really came back from that injury. I know he tried to make a comeback with the Red Sox. That's where I had him in Pawtucket when he was trying to make a comeback. But yeah, listen, I coached a lot of guys. A lot of my guys, the good guys that I coached were probably on rehab with me. Dude, I had Smoltz, Lester, uh, Daisuke Matsuzaka. Had a lot of good ball players come down there. Um, but yeah, I'm pulling for Mark. I think in the end, I really do. But I'm pulling for the Rays and Dodgers to go to the World Series.
And last question before I let you go, we got 5 minutes here.
Yeah,
Um, my Padres. You just talked about it, and they were NLCS last year. I'm just happy they beat the Dodgers. I'm happy for that. What is going on this year? Is it pitching, hitting? What the hell is going on? Because you can't blame Bob Melvin. He's a good manager. You can't blame that. He can only do so much. So what
yeah.
the hell is going on?
What the hell is going on here? Um, I'll be honest with you. It's hard to figure out because, you know, you got Soto who's hitting what 230, 240. What's he hitting?
Not yeah, about that. Not doing what he's supposed to be doing. No, not when he was with the Nationals.
And to be honest with you, and not to bring up my team in IMG, but the team that I had this year, we started out on fire, and I gave one kid to another team because he was doing such a good job, and we put him on a higher team, and my my team just stopped hitting. They stopped hitting. Now, how does one player make the whole team stop hitting? I just couldn't figure that out. So I mean, maybe they're just missing one piece somewhere. I don't get it. I could sit here and tell you, you Darvish, his son's here at IMG, and I talk to him all the time about his dad, and he says they've got the pitching, they've got the
They
hitting.
do. They do. Yeah.
It's just a matter of putting it together, man. And again, on paper, I think they have the best team out of every team in Major League Baseball. It's just a matter of putting it together. I really do. Is it Bob Melvin's fault? I'll never blame a manager. I'm sorry. It's just your team is as good as your players are. And
Exactly.
so that's how I feel.
I feel you. I just don't get it. I know Manny's out right now, but it is what it is. And one player don't make the team.
No, no. But you say that one guy doesn't make the team. But like I said, my team, one guy did. I don't know
Yeah,
why. Why?
yeah, true. True.
Um,
Yeah.
but we had the same team. We were like 5-3, and then turned around, and then we went 2-12 my next 14 games. So it was crazy.
I just wish it could I just hope it can be turned around. His season's still young, so we'll
Oh yeah,
see.
I think they have an opportunity. Don't get me wrong, they have an opportunity.
I just know we gotta do something with Soto. I think we just need to trade him because honestly, he ain't going to stay. His agent is Drew Rose. I think Drew. What? No, who's the? I don't know. Some big agent out there. I forget who. Oh, Scott
Rosenhaus,
Boris. Scott Boris.
Boris. Okay,
And he already turned down a 400 something million deal with the Nationals, so he ain't going to sign again with the Padres
right.
for even no amount's going to make him happy. So, I
Well,
mean,
here's my thought. Let me throw this. I'm changing gears real quick. Here's my thought. The Angels need to get rid of two guys, and they need to get rid of Otani, and they need to get rid of Trout, and
I
get and
couldn't
get
agree. I couldn't agree with you more.
could get they could get a World Series team for those two guys in young stars, and they could get their World Series somewhere else because they're wasting those two guys' talents away. They really are.
I couldn't agree with you more.
So
I agree. They're wasting their talent. They're wasting their prime over there.
yep, they
But
really are.
then again, I don't think Trout really wants to go nowhere because you saw he took a hometown discount to stay there. So I
Well,
think he's happy there.
I think he did that because of the Otani thing, but trust me, he sees that two guys aren't going to win the game with him and Otani. So trust me, I don't think he would balk at being traded to the Dodgers or the Padres or you know the let's just say the Yankees or even the Astros. I don't think he'd balk at it. I really don't.
So you really well, maybe so, but I don't think he wants that though, because he's already come out in the past before saying he don't want to be like what's the word I'm trying to say here? He don't want to be what is it? He don't want to be the bad guy, shall I say?
But he's
If
not
you
being
get what I'm saying.
not being a bad guy. Listen, if the Angels traded him, they'd be doing him a favor. Okay, he's doing them a favor right now by taking the discount. Well, do him a favor and put him on a team that has an opportunity to win a World Series, because the Angels aren't going to do it.
No, I agree with you on that, but where do you think he would want to go though? Because he don't want to go to another big market. He's already said that he don't want to go to a big market.
Well, send him to the Tampa Bay Rays. Send him,
But,
send him
but
here,
what would you get for him though from the Rays
dude. Hey, they keep bringing up.
Besides pitching,
Well, what does win ball? What wins ball games? Pitching. Okay, now you get to the playoffs, it's defense, I think mostly, but you got to have pitching to start. And let me tell you something. And that's the other. That's my other guy, Kyle Snyder, the pitching coach for Tampa. That's the other guy I had with the Red Sox. Okay, he's done wonders with their pitching staff. Okay, but they've got pitching staff. They got pitchers coming out of the yin yang. I'm telling you, they could get a ton for him. If he don't want to go to a big market, come down to Tampa.
yeah, I agree with you with Otani. If they really want something in return, because they ain't going to sign him, I can tell you that right now. The way he was talking last year, I mean, he's pissed, and I don't blame him because I mean they've done well with surrounding him with him and Trout with hitting. That's not the issue. It's pitching.
Yeah,
They just can't pitch. They can't get pitchers. I don't
no,
know what it is. I mean, they've even signed free agent pitchers, but obviously that hasn't helped. I
no.
mean, if you're going to get something in return, don't let him walk. Trade him.
He'll be traded. I'll almost guarantee he's traded in July, early July.
Got to. You got to get something in return because if you let him walk, you ain't getting shit in
Yep,
return.
yep. And they've forked out a lot of money already with him, so I'd get something for him.
Now, I can also see another scenario like that too. Somebody else came out unhappy. Oh, I can't think of the name right now. I want to say, oh yeah, Lindor. He signed a big ass deal with the Mets, but he hasn't panned out. So a lot of people are saying that they need to trade him. Your take on that, because he hasn't done well at all since signing that deal. I saw stats, and yeah, ESPN showed the stats from what he was with the All-Star years that he was with Cleveland to what he's been hurt, and now what he's done with Mets. It doesn't compare. So now they're calling for his head. What you think they need to just trade him too after signing him to that massive deal?
I think you stick with him. I think the kid's got talent, and you stick with him. You can't give. I mean, how old is he? That's the thing. Now, you're going to give all this money to guys that are 35, 36, 37 years old. That you're blowing up your own, you know, business right there. You can't give $40 million to 35, 36, 37-year old. What'd they give Verlander? And has he pitched yet? I think he's pitched one game. Or
Yeah, yeah.
why?
They
Why?
signed him. They signed him like 2 years. I think it was 60 mil or something. I think
I mean, I understand he pitched really, but he's 30 some odd years, isn't he? How old is he?
he's like in his late 30s. Yeah,
I mean, come on now. And there's a lot of things, and I've talked to a lot of people about this. These I'm getting off track here, but these big contracts. Do this here. Sign these guys to this. You want to make a lot of money, kid? This is what you do. I will give you unbelievable incentives. You win 20 games, I'll give you $20 million. You strike out 300 guys, I'll give you another $20 million.
with incentives. Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying? Yeah, yeah.
Instead of giving you okay, we'll give you 30 million to sign. I'll give you a chance to make 60 million this year. But you got to put up some numbers, and you'll make double of that. Why wouldn't you do that? Because of these owners have created these monsters because we're
Right,
getting guaranteed money away. I think it's,
right.
but if you want to have somebody, you know, put some numbers up, put some incentives, some big incentives. That's how you. I think that's how you do it.
Now, now that you mentioned about these owners, I that leads me to this next question real quick. Um, Especially with my Padres, do you like what Seidler has done with all this spending and spending and spending? Is that showing the fan base that you want to win? You want to win? Like, what's your take on that with owners doing that to please the fan base? Do you think that helps with the fan base?
Well, I think it shows them that they want to win. They're gonna pay in the long run, just like the Red Sox did. Dombrowski, went out and spent all that money, on what's his name, Chris Sale, and all those guys, and that all that money, that they were over the what do you call it, the tax.
Salary cap.
What is it?
Salary cap.
Yeah, salary cap. So when they're over that and they got to pay all these fines or whatever it is, they got to pay all this money back. You know, these large markets, the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Astros, well, not the Astros, but the Dodgers, they've got money coming out of their yin yang, and they can do that stuff. It doesn't matter to them. That's why the only thing I hate about these large contracts is that guys are not producing. And I think you would see better. I think you'd see better production out of a contract that, hey, you know what, Mr. Verlander, I know you pitched really well last year. I'll give you $10 million for guaranteed money, but you sit there and you win me 15 games, I'll give you 15 million more. If you win 20, I'll give you 20 million. So, that's where you make your money, and you have a chance to make 60 million instead of just getting 30 million this year. But
I agree.
Now, do I think anybody would agree to that? Nobody's going to agree to it.
Of course not.
Why? Because the owner.
Beast. Yep. The monsters. Yep.
They already got a guarantee. So.
Yep. I agree with you on that. But I'm going to leave you off on this, and then we'll cut it off for this. This is a 2-part question. We got the trade deadline coming up in 2 months. It's actually a 3-part question. Who are the winners? Who do you think will be the winners? No, who will you think be the buyers? Who do you think will be the sellers? And what names will be traded into what teams?
Well, I honestly think Ohtani is going to get traded for sure, and I think he'll go to San Diego. I really do. I think he'll spend more money, and they're gonna sign him and that's if they're within reach. And I think they will be. So I think they'll sign him because they've already talked about wanting to sign him next year.
Yeah,
I think that he'll go there. I honestly believe that the Yankees will go out and get somebody because they don't want to miss again. They don't want to miss again, and they need to find some pitching.
Yeah,
they got
sure.
two starters that are good enough to get them through to the World Series. They're going to need to find 2 more guys, and they've got the bats. So I honestly think they're going to go out and get somebody, and then you'll probably have the Astros will probably I think they've got a decent team. They'll probably stay put, but I think now I'll be honest with you. Listen to this: if the Mets are not in it, those 2 big boys are going to get traded, Scherzer and Verlander. That's my call.
Oh, without doubt, I think so too. You're right.
So that's my call right there. I think those guys will go, and don't knock my Rays here. I know they don't spend a lot of money, but if they have an opportunity to do well, if they're in first place, they might try something. They really might.
And so who are the names then? who are the names you see? Where do you see them going then?
Well,
from these lower market teams.
I know you're gonna laugh at me, but I think Trout needs to get traded. And if he could come here for let's say half a season, you never know what could happen after that.
Hey, me as a Rays fan as well, I would personally love that, but I just don't think that's going to happen.
Well,
knowing our owner, knowing our owner and how he is, no, he don't want to make big splashes like that.
No, but I'm saying it's only going to be for half a season. He might not sign him to a multi-year deal, but if they're in first place, let's say they're in first place by 5 games come the All-Star break, they want to get back to they love beating up on the Yankees and the Red Sox. They're gonna get something, and if he doesn't want Trout, then he'll go out and find somebody else who's hot. But I really do believe that the Rays will do something this year. They started off hotter than a firecracker, so
What
beware.
about these other low market teams? Who do you see off the radar that you don't think other people will see coming? Who do you think will else be traded?
Um, I'll tell you right now. Watch the Cardinals. They might, if they're not doing well, they're going to trade some of their big boys. That's what I feel. Yeah, I honestly do. They, they've got a lot of high salary guys over there, don't they?
Yeah,
Aaron
two.
Arenado, two.
Yeah, Goldschmidt and Arenado.
Right. So you know, again, I'm not a big believer in these long contracts, but if they, will they keep them there because of the long contracts? I don't know, but I think it's very interesting that week before the trading deadline. I love watching these trades and people are wheeling and dealing. It was really neat when I was in Pawtucket because we were hearing all the things behind the doors because we had a lot of players down in Pawtucket that
Yeah,
were being talked about. So it was really neat.
I'll throw in a name out there. What do you think the Royals should do with Salvi
Uh, I mean,
and Greinke?
Greinke he's gonna no Greinke, he doesn't need to go anywhere. Nobody's gonna want him. He'll fall apart here in the next month or so. He hasn't pitched well. He'll get hurt. Something will happen, and that's my call.
And Salvi?
I mean, he's a good ball player. So, um, you know, I'll tell you, if he's doing well, somebody will want him, and if they can get something for him, because they need all the help they can get right now.
And here's a surprise team. Who do you think the Orioles should go? Because I didn't think they'd be this. I didn't think they. I mean, from last year, I knew they'd be. I knew they were good, but I didn't think it would carry on to this year. Who do you think the Orioles should get?
They won't be in it in another month and a half. They'll be down to third or fourth.
You think?
Yep, I really do. I really do. I think they're in second place right now, or they're in second.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like 3 games behind us. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's just my call. I mean, it's just the way I feel they're going to play. Just like I think the Yankees, if they don't go out and get anybody, the Yankees will falter. Um, but it's just one of those things. I just don't feel the Orioles have the stability yet. They might next year, but this year I think they're going to fall again.
I couldn't have said better. I agree with you. You made some good points, and I totally agree. I mean, I couldn't have said anything better myself. I agree with you on the Soto thing for sure. Just trade him because already know he ain't going to sign.
Exactly.
I mean, you don't have to take a rocket scientist to know. Hell, oh yeah, he already signed. He already turned down a 400+ mil deal with the Nationals, and you really want him to try and negotiate with him again?
Yeah, that ain't going to happen.
Knowing what Boris is,
Yep, ain't going to happen. He'll be gone.
yeah. So just trade him away.
Hey,
Seriously,
send him to the Angels.
right?
Honest.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because you said you made it publicly, just like a couple other teams. You want Shohei.
Yep, exactly.
Now,
So,
whether Shohei wants to be with the Padres, I don't know. You don't say much. You
well,
don't say much, but
I can tell you, Darvish is down there, so they might be talking those two. So
we'll never know because that's their own language. So they don't speak English. So
I'll,
we'll
I'll
never know.
I'll ask Darvish's kid about it. See what he tells me.
There you go. There you go. Why does his kid speak English?
Oh yeah, he speaks great English. Good kid, great kid, and got some talent. You'll hear about him in about Probably about 6 years you'll hear about him.
Damn. I wonder why he wanted to take up English and not his daddy.
Yeah, you'll hear about him. But all right, hey, I enjoyed this.
Yeah, same. I enjoyed it too. Like I said, I'll stay in touch with you. We definitely got to meet up sometime since you're, like I said, you're not even an hour away from me.
All right, buddy. Sounds good, man.
Definitely. Take care. Have a good night. All right.
All right, later.
All right. Later. Bye.
Bye.
Former pitcher, minor league pitcher, former major league pitcher, Rich Sauveur. Tremendous guy. I appreciate his time for coming on. It was awesome. So this concludes my first episode since January. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for tuning in. It was fun. Thank you again, Rich, for joining us. Until then, have a good night. Take care. Pleasure talking baseball with him and hope to meet him in the near future. Till then, guys, have a tremendous night and be safe.